Hey everyone, welcome back to another CollectA review. Today we're taking a look at the new Kamuysaurus. I ended up getting this tiny little Hadrosaur figure from Minizoo. It retails for around $7 and I'll leave a link to Minizoo in the description of this video if you want to pick one up for yourself. This is my second most anticipated figure from CollectA this year, the first being the previously reviewed beautiful Memenchisaurus. But I'll be honest, when this figure was first revealed a few months ago, I kind of got really excited and jumped the gun. I didn't even check the name of the figure that was revealed. I thought it was a Saurolophus because of this little crest right there. So I was a tiny bit disappointed that it wasn't Saurolophus, but also excited that we will finally get a nice Kamuysaurus figure. So maybe someday someone will do my favorite Hadrosaur Saurolophus in figure form. I guess I'll just keep waiting. So anyways, let's get this figure up on the turntable and take a closer look. So let's start with this 360-degree view of the Kamuysaurus. My camera is having a hard time focusing in on this tiny figure on the turntable, but just because this figure is tiny does not mean it's not great. It's a beautifully sculpted figure. It has a lot of nice detail for being such a tiny figure. A lot of really fine scales on there, which is a beautiful touch. It's nice that CollectA is doing Japanese dinosaurs. I think in 2019 they did their Fuki Raptor. Last year we got the Fukisaurus, and now we have this little Hadrosaur to round out our Japanese dinosaur trio. They still need to do a Fuki Venator, and I think there's a Fuki Sauropod Titan thing that they still need to do. So yeah, there's a few they have to get to, but it's nice that they're giving these obscure Japanese species some justice. So yeah, I really like this little guy. The paint scheme is really nice. The main body is a light green color. There's some dark green markings on the side of the body, some red paint for those scales along the back. You have a splash of yellow on the side of the tail and side of the body. And yeah, you do have the typical quote-unquote CollectA war paint look. You have that yellow stripe from the corner mouth going to the eye, but it's really not that bad. There's definitely worse figures that have that war paint look from CollectA, so this one is pretty subtle in my opinion. So let's just do a couple quick measurements. This figure is 5.5 inches long from the tip of the beak to the tip of the tail, and just about 2 inches tall to the top of the hips. So Kamuysaurus in real life was just over 26 feet long. So with those measurements, that put this figure in the 155 scale range. So let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with this beautiful head sculpt. Like I said, this figure is a tiny figure, but it is jam-packed full of details. You can see the eye is painted in black, which is pretty typical for CollectA, but you also have all this beautiful fine scale detail with a lot of nice scale variation on such a tiny figure. You can see that yellow stripe going from the eye to the corner of the mouth. The beak is beautifully sculpted. You can even make out the nostril right there. You have a little bit of a dark red stripe going down the head to the tip of that very tiny crest. Inside the mouth, you can see there's some nice detail. You can actually make out the tongue, and the inside of the mouth is painted pink. And then going down to the neck, you can see the ear canal sculpted in, some of that dark green striping. You can see that red paint along all the large scales on his back that goes all the way down to the very tip of the tail. And then going down to the front legs, you can see some beautiful folds and wrinkles and some nice muscle definition and all that fine texturing of the scales. Now the front feet do have hooves painted on them. I know some people like to see the Dakota reconstruction where it's just one giant hoof covering those front toes, but that's just one specimen right now. I do enjoy that PNSO is doing that with their current Hadrosaur figures, but it's just one Edmontosaurus specimen found like that. It's going to be a little bit more studied to see if this is going to be used for a lot of reconstructions going forward. And then turn the figure over, you can see the underside is a light white color, and we do have the typical dirty CollectA butthole. They are using a little bit of like a gray paint now instead of the brown. The gray looks a lot more appeasing than the brown paint that they're using for some of their older figures. And then going down the side right here, you can see the hind legs has some nice muscle definition. Can't even talk tonight. You got some nice folds and wrinkles right here. More beautiful scale details, some more of that dark green striping. Going down the hind legs, you can see the hooves are done with a light gray paint, and you have some dark brown on the edge of the feet right here. My dog is going crazy downstairs playing with a squeak toy. A little bit distracting. So turn the figure over right here. You can see the CollectA logo. Yeah, it could be a little bit distracting, but it is not as bad as last year's Allosaurus. You could see that trademark stamp from space on that figure. And then going down to the tail, you have a nice wide, thick tail base, even from the top. You get some nice muscle definition, even around the hip area, and all that nice scale detail going all the way down to the tip of the tail. So yeah, for like a $7 tiny figure, Scale, detail, and the sculpting is absolutely beautiful in this thing. Very pleased with this little Hadrosaur. So let's move on with some comparisons, and let's really hammer the point home of how small this figure is. Let's start with some of PNSO's new Hadrosaur figures. First up is the CollectA, which absolutely hates standing on its own. Seriously, I've never had a quadrupedal figure that has balancing issues like this CollectA. And now you can see how small this Kamuysaurus is next to this CollectA. And let's move Mr. Just lay it on its side because it's going to fall over anyways. Next up is their beautiful looking Parasaurolophus, and next up, here it is with their equally beautiful Lambeosaurus. And next up, here it is with Safari's limited, beautiful Edmontosaurus. And let's just get our obligatory PNSO T-Rex comparison out of the way. And you know what, let's do a Beast of the Mesozoic to really make this thing look tiny and meaningless. Here it is next to the new Beast of the Mesozoic Pachyrhinosaurus. And here it is next to the new CollectA Mementosaurus, which is my favorite figure from them this year. You can see that this deluxe figure just dwarfs this Kamuysaurus. And lastly, let's compare it to the other two Japanese dinosaurs that CollectA has put out over the last couple of years. Here it is with the Fukisaurus, and here it is with the Fukiraptor. So yeah, it's nice that CollectA gives these obscure species a chance in figure form. It's one of the reasons why I love CollectA. They're always doing species of dinosaurs that no other toy company would even think of doing. A lot of companies like to always be safe, do Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus Rex, and you got CollectA like pumping out Japanese dinosaur figures, and I absolutely love them for it. So final thoughts on this Kamuysaurus that I probably mispronounced like 10 times during this review. I really love this little Hadrosaur figure. It's another beautiful budget figure from CollectA. That's the best part about this company. You know, the figures aren't really that expensive, and you get good quality, accurate dinosaur figures from them, and that's why I enjoy their products. And I love this little guy right here, even though I wish you were a Saurolophus, but that's just me personally. So yeah, a great figure of a very obscure species of dinosaurs. There's actually one other Kamuysaurus figure out there. Kyoto did a mini one, I think like a couple years ago, and that figure goes for like 30-40 bucks for like a 2-inch figure on eBay. So I'm happy that there is a much more budget-friendly version of this species I can get my hands on. So that will do it for the review. Still have a few more Beasts of Mesozoic Ceratopsian reviews to work on. The rest of these CollectA figures, so be on the lookout for those reviews probably in the next like week or so. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously and is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.